Chapter 45-55. When everyone saw Manager Sun hurriedly push all the blame to Manager Wu, they felt some disdain in their hearts. Manager Sun was very arrogant when he was flaunting his power. Now that he had admitted defeat, he completely pushed all the blame away. From this, one could see his character. However, at this moment, Manager Sun couldn't care less about what others thought of him. Just now, Gong Tianfeng and Xiao Rojin were standing on the same line. Now that Gong Tianfeng and Xiao Rojin had fallen, his greatest hope was to save his own life. Other than that, nothing else was important. Young Master D, you just have to ask Manager Wu. He knows everything very well. Manager Sun smiled embarrassedly. At this moment, Wang Yanhan couldn't help but stand up and say, Young Master D, Manager Wu has always taken good care of Beichun and Beichen. Manager Wu is also very sorry for their deaths. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng glanced at Wang Yanhan and then nodded. First Elder, go with Manager Sun to the Raging Flames sect and ask about the situation. I have some things to tell my friends. Yes, young master. In the next moment, the First Elder took a step forward and lifted Manager Sun up like a chick. His figure quickly flew in the direction of the Raging Flames sect. Seeing this, Zhuo Hongyan cupped his hands and said, Young Master D, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. You may leave. At the same time, Manager Li didn't stay any longer. Clearly, there was nothing else for him to do here. Di Xiaofeng waved his hand and turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun behind him. Sidu, Yishuan, I didn't expect to meet you as soon as I came to Roman City. What a coincidence! When facing Di Beichun and the others, the coldness on Di Xiaofeng's face disappeared and he became more approachable. Xiaofeng, thank you for helping us out just now, Di Beichun said. Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. Situ, you're too polite. Even if I didn't step in, you would have found a way to resolve the situation. As the eldest young master of the Di clan, his judgment was naturally not simple. Earlier, he had already noticed that Di Beichun already had the intention to kill him. If he hadn't shown up, Di Beichun would have made his move. After all, Xiao Rojin was definitely no match for Di Beichun. It would be neat to kill her directly. In the next instant, Di Xiaofeng's gaze suddenly turned gloomy. Moreover, they bullied my younger brother and sister-in-law. I absolutely can't tolerate them. Thinking that Beichun had really fallen, Di Xiaofeng's mood was very gloomy. If possible, he wished he could meet his own younger brother. For so many years, he had been looking forward to reuniting with his younger brother. This was also the hope of their entire family. Who would have thought that they would not be able to reconcile in the end? Everyone naturally noticed Di Xiaofeng's sad and gloomy mood, and they all fell silent. Bailey Hongzhuang quietly sized up Di Xiaofeng. Ever since the previous incident, both she and Beichun had become very vigilant. They had to get to the bottom of this matter. She felt that Di Xiaofeng's sadness at this moment did not seem to be faked. On the contrary, he seemed to be really sad about Beichun's death. Moreover, in her impression, Di Xiaofeng was not such a sinister person. Even so, they still had to be cautious when dealing with this matter. Chapter 45-56. Young Master Wan Yin, you're my brother and sister-in-law's senior brother. I wonder if you could tell me more about them. Di Xiaofeng calmed himself down and looked at Wang Yanhan. Although the news of Di Beichun's death was basically set in stone, he still wanted to know more about his brother. Wang Yanhan nodded. No problem. There's a restaurant up ahead. Why don't we go there and talk? It's not convenient to talk on the street. Yi Hao Miao suggested. After the unforeseen event earlier, they had already become the center of everyone's discussion. Now that they were standing here, there were many cultivators around them who had stopped to watch them. Their words could easily be overheard by others. Okay, in a private room in the restaurant, Di Beichun and the others sat down together. Di Xiaofeng clearly didn't care about the joy of reuniting with Di Beichun and the others. His mind was filled with his brother and sister-in-law situation. So my brother and sister-in-law are both heaven-sent geniuses. After hearing Wang Yanhan's words, Di Xiaofeng also understood. He couldn't help but feel proud. It turned out that his brother and sister-in-law were such geniuses. Wan Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao couldn't help but nod. They're really rare geniuses. If it wasn't for their help, Wan Yanhan and I would have been dead. Then the people who chased after them, did you see clearly? Di Xiaofeng asked. No matter what, I must avenge my brother and sister-in-law. At that time, we saw 3 black-clothed men. Their strength was very strong. In just a face-to-face effort, they had already disappeared in front of our eyes. Moreover, they were all masked. We couldn't catch up to them at all. Wan Yanhan sighed and shook his head. He also hoped to help Di Beichen and Yi Haomiao find the people who chased after them. Unfortunately, they were helpless against such opponents. All right, you said that you didn't see my brother's body. Only a skeleton army appeared in front of us, right? Di Xiaofeng keenly grasped the information in Yi Haomiao's words. His heart tightened as he looked at Yi Haomiao. Is that so? Yi Haomiao nodded, yes. If that's the case, then maybe my brother and the others are still alive. Di Xiaofeng's eyes lit up again. Even though the possibility was small, it was still a possibility. Beichen and Hong Zhuang are both geniuses. Back then, Beichen went to the lower realm. Over the years, many people believe that he had fallen. However, not only is he alive and well, he even came to the upper realm. Maybe there will be a miracle this time. I always feel that the heavens take pity on us. One day, we will be reunited. Seeing Di Xiaofeng's hopeful look, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, Xiaofeng, are you really looking forward to your brother's return? Of course. I only have one younger brother. All these years, the whole family has been hoping that he can come back soon. When my younger brother went missing, my mother cried every day. My father felt even more guilty and has been searching for him for the past 20 years. In fact, I haven't seen my father much over the years, but I understand him. All these years, I've been out a lot. Actually, I've been trying my luck. Maybe I'll be able to see him one day. Chapter 45-57. That's right, Yixian. I have another reason for coming to Romance City. I want to invite you to my family. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help looking at Bailey Hongzhuang as he spoke. Your medical skills are very outstanding. I hope you can help me with something. No matter what the reward is, I'll do my best. Xiaofeng, you don't need to be so polite. Since you need help, I'll go to the Di family. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. They had originally planned to go to the Di family. She also wanted to know what Beichen's family was like. Xiaofeng, you want Yixian to go to your family to treat who? Di Beichen couldn't help but ask. It's my mother. Di Xiaofeng sighed. These years, because of my brother's disappearance, my mother has been depressed and crying all day. Her body is already very bad. A few days ago, my mother found out that my brother was still alive and her body got better. However, when she found out that my brother had died, she suffered an even bigger blow and her body is getting worse and worse. Now, she has less and less energy. As long as she thinks of Beichun, her face will be covered in tears. If this continues, I'm afraid she won't be able to hold on for much longer. I know Yixian has a way to treat this kind of patient, so I wanted to ask you to treat my mother. This heart knot has been there for many years, and it won't be easy to treat it. However, we've already lost Beichen. We can't lose her too. Di Xiaofeng's eyes reddened. Everyone thought that he was born in such a glorious family, but they couldn't even have the most basic reunion. When he heard that Di Xiaofeng's mother couldn't hold on for much longer, Di Beichen's hand holding the teacup couldn't help but tremble. He didn't even notice the hot tea splashing onto his hand. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart couldn't help but tremble. She didn't expect the Di family to be in such a situation. Through Di Xiaofeng's description, she could already imagine the pain and sadness Di Beichen's mother had been in these years. Her son had led a wandering life for so many years, and she could no longer express how much she missed him. Originally, she was already unable to bear the burden of such longing and sadness. Later, she experienced such a blow from heaven to hell, so it was normal for her to become like this. Not to mention her, even if it was anyone else, they would not be able to withstand such a blow. Thinking back to how they had speculated about Beichen's background, it turned out that his parents loved him so much. Even if they didn't go to the Di family, they already knew everything. There was no need to mention Beichen's mother, and his father had been searching for him all these years. Bailey Hongzhuang knew very well that Beichen would have died a long time ago if they hadn't found a doctor who could cure his cursed body. The Supreme D clan was very clear about this situation. But during these years, they had been persisting in their search, not willing to give up. It was precisely because of the love in their hearts. As for Di Xiaofeng, she no longer doubted him. She noticed that when Di Xiaofeng said that he had never blamed his parents, his tone was very calm and full of understanding. In fact, Di Beichun had been wandering outside all these years. Everyone only felt that he had suffered a lot of grievances, but in fact, for more than 20 years, the people of the Di family had obviously put all their attention on Di Beichun. Chapter 4558. Ishuan, I beg you, you must find a way to save my mother. Di Xiaofeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with red eyes. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang was the only hope he could think of. Di Yujue had already invited all the miracle doctors he could, but there was no effect. If Lan Yishuan couldn't cure his mother, then there was really no hope. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Xiaofeng, don't worry. I will do my best. In fact, as soon as she knew that the patient was Di Beichen's mother, Bailey Hongzhuang would do her best to treat her. That was her mother-in-law. However, she believed that as long as Di Beichen went back, she wouldn't need to do anything and his mother would recover. After all, the heart of the heart had to be cured. Lin Yunqing had been looking forward to Di Beichen's return for so many years. As long as Di Beichen went back, her illness will be mostly cured. All right, Brother Wan Yin is my brother and sister-in-law's senior brother. He is also your senior brother. So, you know my brother and sister-in-law too? Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen and Lan Yishuan in surprise. He didn't expect that the two friends he made outside were his brother's senior brother and sister. Yes, we are all from Penglai Palace. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Just as they were talking, when Xiren and the others also rushed over. Just as they opened the door of the private room, when Xiren's impatient voice came in. I heard that you guys had a conflict with Xiao Rojin outside. Along the way, they heard that everyone was talking about this. Even if they didn't see it with their own eyes, they almost understood the whole process. It wasn't until they came in that when Xiren realized that Di Xiaofeng was also here, he immediately cupped his hands to Di Xiaofeng. Young Master Di is also here. Di Xiaofeng smiled and nodded. We meet again. Xiren originally had a stomach full of questions, but after seeing Di Xiaofeng, he swallowed them back down. He had heard that Di Xiaofeng was from the Di clan. Didn't they originally plan to go to the Di clan? Most importantly, what was the relationship between Di Xiaofeng and Beichen? Di Xiaofeng naturally noticed Xiren's hesitant look, but he didn't care. After all, he had only interacted with Xiren and the others for a short period of time. Naturally, it was impossible for him to tell them everything. Young master, I've already inquired about the matter. The great elder quickly returned, but he didn't continue speaking either. Seeing this, Di Beichun stood up and said, Xiaofeng, since you still have things to do, then we'll go back first. You can directly go to the Azure Dragon Gate and let us know when we're leaving. All right. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, Di Xiaofeng looked at the great elder. Great elder, what's the situation? Hearing Di Xiaofeng's question, the great elder didn't immediately answer. Instead, he looked in the direction Di Beichen and the others left and said, Young master, your two friends have disguised themselves. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng was slightly stunned. Disguise? Chapter 4559. Although I don't know how young master met them, but since they have never treated young master with their true faces, I think it's best to be careful when making friends with them. The great elder's eyes flashed with wisdom and contemplation. Although he had a good impression of Di Beichen, since they were being so secretive, there must be something they couldn't tell others. Di Xiaofeng also didn't expect such a situation. Since Di Beichen saved him, he had always regarded these two as friends that he could make deep friends with. If it wasn't for the great elder's reminder, he would never have known that Di Beichen had disguised themselves. Even so, he still felt that Di Beichun didn't mean to deceive him, because, as early as the first time they met, the two of them had already disguised themselves. Moreover, the two of them had been in disguise ever since they came to Rowan City. It could be seen that this disguise wasn't targeted at him. Previously, he had heard that they went to Shuai-Yun City because they were being chased. Presumably, this disguise was also to hide from the people who were chasing them. Great Elder, I believe that they are sincere to me, Di Xiaofeng slowly said. No matter what reason Di Beichun and Di Xiaofeng had disguised themselves, from the day he pretended to be drunk, he knew that the two of them were sincere to him. Seeing that Di Xiaofeng had already confirmed this point, the Great Elder helplessly shook his head but didn't say anything. He understood that the young master had his own thoughts, and it was useless for him to say anything more. However, he still felt that there was something wrong with people who couldn't be sincere. Great Elder, let's not talk about this for now. Tell me in detail what you learned from the Raging Flames sect. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked towards the Azure Dragon sect. Xiren couldn't help but ask, "What's going on? Is Di Xiaofeng really from the Di family? Then what's the relationship between you two?" He was really confused now. He just went to the guild and didn't expect so many things to happen. Di Xiaofeng is Beichun's biological brother, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Di Beichun had been silent the whole time. This sudden situation clearly needed some time to digest. They had already learned from A.O. Lingxiao that Beichun had an older brother, but they didn't expect this older brother to be Di Xiaofeng. Life was really full of coincidences. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, when Zi Rant's voice was sluggish. This situation was really unexpected. Then what do you plan? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichun and then said, Beichun's mother was too sad when she heard that he had died. Now she is seriously ill, so we plan to go to the Di family first. No matter what, we cannot let anything happen to his mother. That's true. Zyra nodded. This is also good. If we take this opportunity to go to the Di family, Beichun can safely return to the Di family. The reason why they didn't go to the Di family was because they were worried that they might encounter an accident on the way. Now that Di Xiaofeng was leading the way, their journey would be much smoother. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say anything. She just gave him a look. Xiren immediately understood. This situation still needed Di Beichun to make the decision. In fact, this kind of thing about one's background, no matter who it was, would need some time to think about it. Chapter 4560. These were all his direct relatives. It was a pity that he had never interacted with them before. Thinking about it, no matter who it was, they wouldn't know what to do in such a situation. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't worried at all, because she had experienced this before. Thinking back to when she found out about her background, her feelings were very complicated. But the moment she saw her relatives, all the psychological burden instantly disappeared. The feeling of blood being thicker than water was innate. When Xiren and the others also understood that Di Beichun needed some time to think about things. Immediately, everyone returned to their own residences. Wanyan Han, Wanyan Ling, and Yi Haomiao didn't return to the Raging Flames sect. Instead, they came to the Azure Dragon sect with them. Previously, they had already offended Manager Sunday. Although Manager Wu was the one in charge of their affairs, there were many ways to deal with them after offending a manager in the sect. Although Di Xiaofeng was here now and Manager Sun didn't dare to do anything to them, once Di Xiaofeng left, their situation would be worse. Luckily, Manager Li of the Azure Dragon sect had also extended an olive branch to them. If they could stay in the Azure Dragon sect, it would be good news for them. However, they were only temporarily staying in Xiren's residence. As for how to deal with all this, they hadn't thought about it yet. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang poured a cup of tea for Di Beichun before saying, Beichun, you also plan to make a trip to the Di family, right? Di Beichun nodded slightly. This time, he definitely had to go back. His mother was seriously ill because of him. If he didn't go back, how could he be at ease? As long as you go back, your mother will know that you're still alive. Her illness will be cured without any treatment. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle and comforting. Previously, She had also noticed Di Beichen's reaction when he heard that Lin Yunqing was seriously ill. Actually, these relatives occupied an extremely important position in Di Beichen's heart. However, as long as we go to the Di clan, I'm sure your father will recognize you immediately. Staring at Di Beichen with her bright black eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang knew very well that although her disguise technique was not bad, at the level of cultivation of Di Beichen's father, recognizing a person no longer depended on their appearance, but on their aura. It was possible to disguise one's appearance, but it was very difficult to hide one's aura. Thus, the return this time around was to reveal their identities. Di Beichen nodded. I understand. If I'm not wrong, the Great Elder has already seen through our disguises. Di Beichen's eyes were bright and wise. He could feel that the Elder was looking at them with a trace of doubt. Moreover, the Elder's gaze was fixed on him and Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. So, Xiaofeng should already know. For a moment, the two of them fell into silence. If Di Xiaofeng knew that they had been using disguises to face him, who knew what he would think? After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "Do you think we should talk about it after we return to the Di family, or now?" If it wasn't for the assassination earlier, they would have already told him frankly. But now, the decision was in Di Beichen's hands. Chapter 45-61. Let me think about it, Di Beichen said in a low voice. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and didn't disturb Di Beichen anymore. Actually, it was safer to talk after returning to the Di family, but she was worried that Di Xiaofeng would be suspicious because they didn't trust him enough. But if she said it now, once Di Xiaofeng had second thoughts, they would be in danger again. Early the next morning, Di Xiaofeng came to the Azure Dragon sect. Situ Yishuan, can you guys come back to the family with me today? Di Xiaofeng's face was somewhat helpless. He already understood the situation from the Raging Flames sect, but he didn't have a specific goal. The most important thing now was his mother's illness, so he couldn't delay. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded without hesitation. No problem. Thank you so much. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with gratitude. Although he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Situ Yishuan had been hiding their true identities, he believed that their friendship was real. Xiaofeng, this time, when I go to the Di clan, can I bring Ziran and the others with me? Di Beichen slowly asked. He was very clear that once he went to the Di family, his identity wouldn't be hidden anymore. Ziran and the others came to the upper realm because of him. If he went to the Di family, he naturally couldn't let Ziran and the others continue to stay here. They already had a tacit understanding on this point. However, after Di Xiaofeng and Great Elder heard Di Beichen's request, their expressions became very strange. They only asked Bailey Hongzhuang to treat Lin Yunqing. It was understandable that Di Beichen would go with them, but it was strange that so many people were going together. Young Master Sidu, we're only going to treat her this time. This Great Elder only said half of his words, but everyone understood what he meant. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. It was indeed difficult for him to accept such a request without knowing anything about it. However, just as Di Beichen was about to explain, Di Xiaofeng suddenly waved his hand and said, "Since Situ brought it up, then let's do it." Hearing Di Xiaofeng's answer, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were surprised. They knew the specific situation, so they weren't surprised by Di Beichen's suggestion. Di Xiaofeng didn't know anything, but he agreed just like that? Did he really trust them that much? Let's go. Di Xiaofeng smiled. Thank you. Di Beichen's deep eyes flashed with a complicated and bright light, but there was a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Just as everyone was preparing to set off together, Wang Yanhan suddenly spoke up. Sidu Xuan, I have some words I want to say to you all. Hearing that, Di Beichen and the others looked at Wang Yanhan in surprise, not knowing what he wanted to say at this time. Then you all go ahead. I'll wait for you all, Di Xiaofeng said tactfully. After Di Xiaofeng and Great Elder left, Wang Yanhan said, Di Beichen, you all are going to the Di family. We won't go. Why? Di Beichen frowned. Ever since they came to the upper realm, Wang Yanhan had always taken care of them. After such a long time together, He already treated Wang Yanhan as a good brother. Chapter 4562. Go ahead. I believe that we will meet again in the future. Wang Yanhan had a warm and sunny smile on his face as he wished Di Beichen well. When he found out that Di Beichen was the young master of the Di family, he knew that they were no longer in the same world. If they followed Di Beichen to the Di family, they would not be mistreated. However, he hoped to create his own world through his own efforts. Only in this way, when they met Di Beichen and the others in the future, they could still maintain their current relationship. He knew that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were sincere to them. However, they were different from when Xiren and the others. When Xiren and the others had a long relationship with Di Beichen, they naturally could not compare. Di Beichen looked deeply at Wang Yanhan. He understood Wang Yanhan's thoughts. After a moment of silence, he said, "Okay, eldest senior brother, there will definitely be a day when we meet again." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Wang Yanhan with reluctance in her eyes. Although she did not spend much time with Wang Yanhan, she really treated Wang Yanhan as a big brother. "That's right, we will." Yi Haomiao and Wang Yanling also said, You must take care. You must take care too." When Di Xiaofeng saw that Wang Yanhan and the others did not come together, he was also surprised. However, he did not ask. "Let's go." Then, everyone walked towards the teleportation array. A feeling of dislocation came, and when they opened their eyes again, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were already in a strange city. This Ganyang city is only a transit station. It will take some time to reach my Di family. Di Xiaofeng explained slowly. Flying is prohibited in Ganyang City. We will fly to my family after leaving Ganyang City. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were confused. With their current strength, it was indeed possible for them to fly, but if they were to fly for a long time, they would not be able to withstand it. Could it be that this Ganyang City was already very close to the Di clan? However, when they arrived outside the city, they understood. This was because Di Xiaofeng and First Elder had taken out 2 flying carriages. This is a flying magic artifact? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 2 flying chariots in front of her in surprise. She had heard of the upper realms flying chariots before. These flying chariots were refined by master refiners, but she had never seen one before. In Rome and City, she had only interacted with ordinary cultivators in the sect. She did not have such a background at all. Di Xiaofeng nodded. "That's right, my flying magic artifact doesn't have a lot of space because I'm usually alone. My family has a large flying magic artifact, but mine is just a simple one. Now that we're all going to fly there together, we need 2. When Xiren and the rest were pleasantly surprised when they saw the flying instrument. They had only heard of such a treasure before, so they were really curious about its effects. Instantly, the entire group split into 2 and sat in the 2 flying chariots. After everyone sat in, they felt the chariot shake, then they flew into the sky. Sitting in the flying chariot, it felt very stable, and the flying speed was extremely fast. Chapter 4563. Sitting on the flying car, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the layout of the flying car. Although Di Xiaofeng's flying car wasn't big, the layout was very luxurious. It wasn't simple at a glance. She had come into contact with flying magic tools before, but she wasn't a forger, so she didn't know much about it. However, she still had basic eyesight. It was clear that Di Xiaofeng's flying magic tool wasn't low grade. For a large family like the Di family, the young master's things naturally wouldn't be bad. Di Xiaofeng sat at the front of the flying car. After setting the direction, he turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. "My flying magic tool is usually used by me alone, so I chose a small one. Actually, another reason is that although this flying magic tool is small, it's fast. After all, the larger the size, the greater the resistance. Head Elder often takes the juniors out to do things, so his flying magic tool is bigger." Di Xiaofeng explained with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also saw the head elder's flying magic tool. It was indeed much bigger than Di Xiaofeng's. At this moment, there were only 3 people sitting on Di Xiaofeng's flying magic tool. Xiren and the others were with the head elder. So it's like that. Di Beichun smiled faintly. With this kind of flying magic tool, traveling is indeed much more convenient. Although this flying magic tool wasn't as fast as a teleportation formation, not every place had a teleportation formation, so the flying magic tool was undoubtedly useful. If they had a flying magic tool, they wouldn't have to spend so much effort to travel. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes flashed with a complicated light. He wanted to say something, but he stopped. After a while, Di Xiaofeng said, Sidu Xuan, I don't have many friends, but I really think of you as good friends. As soon as the words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed a bit. It seemed that their guess was right. Di Xiaofeng already knew about their disguise. I know you've disguised yourselves. No matter what the reason is, I still hope that we can treat each other with sincerity. Di Xiaofeng's dark eyes were filled with sincerity. If it was just him, he wouldn't think too deeply about it. But Bailey Hongzhuang was going to treat his mother, so he had to eliminate all possibilities. Bailey Hongzhuang did not reply. Instead, she looked at Di Beichen. Until now, she still did not know what decision Di Beichen had made. However, now that Di Xiaofeng had already spoken to this point, it was naturally impossible for him not to give a reason. Actually, you deliberately let us sit with you, Di Beichen said slowly. He had already discovered this long ago. Di Xiaofeng's flying carriage was indeed small, but the first elder's flying carriage was very big. They could ride the first elder's flying carriage together, but Di Xiaofeng still wanted to ride separately. At that time, he had already guessed the reason. That's right. Di Xiaofeng didn't deny it. I'm very sorry. No. Di Beichen waved his hand. Actually, we were hiding something from you. Even if you didn't say it, I was going to tell you the truth. He wasn't stupid. In fact, he saw through these things very clearly. Di Xiaofeng cared about their friendship, but the first elder definitely didn't believe them. Chapter 45-64. Seeing that Di Beichen was willing to be honest with him, Di Xiaofeng's eyes lit up. It seemed that his judgment was right. Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng treated him with sincerity. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly asked a question. Xiaofeng, do you hope that your brother will never go back? Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng was startled. He frowned and his face turned cold. Why? I've always wanted my brother to go back as soon as possible. If he goes back, won't you have another competitor? Bailey Hongzhuang looked straight into Di Xiaofeng's eyes. It wasn't that she was narrow-minded. In fact, this kind of thing was common in large families. It was rare to see two brothers who had a good relationship and helped each other. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. I understand what you're saying, but this kind of thing won't happen in my Di family. Seeing Di Xiaofeng's confident look, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly glanced at Di Beichen and didn't say anything else. Di Beichen's lips gradually curved into a smile. Back then, because we were being chased, we were worried that we would encounter enemies again, so we disguised ourselves. When we first met you, we didn't know that you were from the Di family. We only thought that you were an ordinary cultivator. We were worried that you would be implicated by us, so we didn't face you with our real faces. Di Xiaofeng's expression softened. In fact, he had already guessed this. Even if the Great Elder didn't agree with his point of view, he had always believed that his judgment wouldn't be wrong. Now it seemed that he was right. Back then, you were being chased in Romance City? Di Xiaofeng frowned. What a coincidence. My brother and sister-in-law were also being chased in Romance City. However, you're all cultivators from the lower realm. Why were you being chased? Di Xiaofeng was a bit confused. Logically speaking, cultivators from the lower realm shouldn't be a threat to cultivators from the upper realm. Normally, this kind of situation wouldn't happen. However, when he said this, Di Xiaofeng's expression suddenly changed. His gaze was fixed on Di Beichen and Li Wuyo. This situation seemed to be too much of a coincidence. His younger brother and sister-in-law were being hunted down. Situ and Yi Xian were also being hunted down. Wan Yanhan was his younger brother and sister-in-law's senior martial brother. Similarly, he was the senior martial brother of Situ and Situ. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? Wait, Di Xiaofeng stretched out his hand. I need a strand. I have an impossible idea. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and smiled. Both of them stopped talking. It seemed that Di Xiaofeng had understood. After a long while, Di Xiaofeng suddenly raised his head and looked at Di Beichun in disbelief. Di Beichun nodded quietly. You guessed right. You're Di Beichun? Di Xiaofeng's eyes widened. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes quietly turned red. Situ Chung, Di Beichun. He remembered his father saying that the person who was itching to kill Di Beichun was called Sita Yin. All this time, he had never thought in this direction. However, now that everything was connected, he suddenly understood. Di Beichun smiled faintly and nodded. That's right. It's me. Di Xiaofeng's voice trembled and choked. You're still alive. Chapter 4565. Looking at the handsome face in front of him, Di Xiaofeng didn't feel unfamiliar at all, because he had seen this face in the portrait before. That's right, it's him. He's my brother. That's great. You're still alive. Di Xiaofeng was so excited that he couldn't control himself. His eyes were a little wet as he opened his arms to Di Beichun. Di Beichun's smile gradually widened as the two brothers hugged each other. Good boy. Di Xiaofeng patted Di Beichun's back. I knew you would survive. You don't know how much we've been waiting for you to come back. It's a good thing you're fine. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were red as he held back his tears. For so many years, all of them had been waiting for Di Beichun to come back. He didn't expect that he would see him before. No wonder when he first saw Di Beichun, he felt like they were old friends at first sight. At this moment, he understood everything. Di Beichun's smile gradually widened. He didn't say anything. At this moment, nothing needed to be said. Bailey Hongzhuang watched the process of the two brothers' reunion, and her heart was filled with joy. Perhaps their reunion wasn't earth-shattering, but men weren't good at expressing their emotions. She could feel that the two of them were extremely excited at this moment. Brothers who had been separated for more than 20 years finally met. They were unfamiliar yet familiar, but there was no barrier between them. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also removed her disguise. Di Beichun's judgment was right. Di Xiaofeng was indeed trustworthy, and she was really happy for Beichun, because in such a huge family, having such a brotherly relationship was very precious. After a moment, Di Xiaofeng let go of Di Beichun and quietly wiped the corners of his eyes. The smile on his face became even brighter. Beichun, I really didn't expect you to be Beichun. Even now, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. This sudden change made him feel as if he had fallen into a dream. For a moment, he didn't even dare to believe that all of this was real. He was even afraid that this was just a dream. I didn't expect you to be my big brother. Di Beichun chuckled. When I first found out that you were Wanya and Han's junior brothers and sisters, I felt that it was very strange. However, I couldn't figure out what it was strange about. Until now, I finally understand. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. In fact, ever since he went to Rome and City, he had a strange feeling lingering in his heart. Now, he finally understood. When we found out that you were the young master of the Supreme D clan, we were also extremely shocked. No wonder you two were so close to each other. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. When Beichun first met Uncle, he also hit it off very well. Actually, I should have guessed it back when I was in Watercloud City. Only then did Di Xiaofeng look at Bailey Hongzhuang. With one look, he couldn't help but be stunned. Before, Bailey Hongzhuang could only be said to be a delicate and pretty girl. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely a stunning woman. It was a kind of breathtaking beauty. He admitted that he had never seen such a beautiful girl in his life. All the beautiful adjectives in the world seemed to be insufficient to add to her body. Such a beauty should only exist in the heavens. Big brother. Seeing Di Xiaofeng staring at his wife in a daze, Di Beichun couldn't help but call out. Chapter 4566. Second brother. I've long heard that sister-in-law is a beauty. Seeing you today is simply shocking. Di Xiaofeng laughed heartily. My second brother is really lucky, huh? It's mainly because I have good taste. Di Beichun admitted bluntly. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the two's praise, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. "You're really not polite." Di Xiaofeng laughed and scolded, although this is also the truth. The two clearly just recognized each other, but at this moment, they were very natural with each other, as if they had never been separated all these years. "I finally understand why you want everyone to follow you back to the family. It turns out that you've already made up your mind." As he spoke, Di Xiaofeng suddenly frowned. "Oh right, since you've already come to the upper realm, why didn't you return to the family? We originally planned to go back, but although the Di family's reputation is resounding, most people don't even know where it is. Moreover, after we were suddenly attacked, we also guessed a few possibilities, so we planned to understand the situation clearly before taking action. However, it just so happened that you came to find us, so we naturally went back on the way." The handsome and perfect face rippled with an evil smile. This time, they had indeed taken a ride. If it wasn't for Di Xiaofeng bringing them back, they were afraid that they would have to rely on their own 2 feet to hurry back, which would take a long time. "This is because the heavens can't bear to see you wandering outside, so they sent me to Rome and city to bring you back as soon as possible." Ever since he found out that Di Beichun was his younger brother, the smile on Di Xiaofeng's face never disappeared. In the past, he had also fantasized about his younger brother's appearance. Now that he looked at Di Beichun in front of him, he was really satisfied. This was even more satisfying than he had imagined. Actually, this is also because Father has always been unwilling to give up. We received news that you had already fallen, but Father was always unwilling to believe it. Originally, he insisted on going to Rome and city to take a look, but because I said that I wanted to find Yixian to treat Mother's injuries, so I went instead. Mother's situation is quite bad now, so she can't go without someone to accompany her. Di Xiaofeng's eyes quietly flashed with a trace of sadness, but he quickly recovered. Now that Beichun is back, Mother will definitely recover. Di Beichun nodded slightly, his eyes filled with anticipation. He also hoped that Lin Yunqing's condition would get better soon. He finally came back, and he hoped that his family could be reunited. "Brother Xiaofeng, can you tell me more about the Di family?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Xiaofeng curiously. Until now, they didn't know much about the Di family. Now that Di Xiaofeng was here, he naturally wanted to know more. "No problem." Di Xiaofeng chuckled. "You've already met Father. As for Mother, she's a famous beauty. Sister-in-law, just look at me and second brother. Of course, Father's looks aren't bad either." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Indeed, when she first saw Di Yujue, he was also a first-class handsome man. Mother is the young miss of the Lin family. The Lin family is also a big family. Back then, Father and Mother's union was a strong union, but Mother was a famous beauty and had many pursuers. Father was also very capable, so he captured Mother's heart. Chapter 45-67. I heard that Father and Mother were a pair that everyone envied. They were very loving, but I rarely saw them together. Ever since Beichun disappeared, Mother has been sad and blamed Father. Father blamed himself and has been searching for Beichun's whereabouts all these years. However, I can still see that they are very much in love because they're always worried about each other. Di Xiaofeng's voice was full of emotion. If Beichun hadn't been wandering outside, they would have been very happy all these years. Di Beichun fell silent after hearing all this. He already knew about this situation before. When he chatted with Di Yujue, he knew that Di Yujue loved his wife very much. It was just that he was unwilling to forgive him because of one thing. However, at that time, he didn't know that it was all because of him. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was slightly touched. She believed that after hearing all this, Di Beichun would no longer have any dissatisfaction with the family. It wasn't that the Supreme Di clan had given up on him. Rather, it was because he was plotted against by his enemies. All these years, the Supreme Di clan had always placed Beichun's safety in their hearts. No one had ever chosen to give him up. Until this time, everyone was sure that Beichun was no longer around. However, whether it was Di Yujue or Di Xiaofeng, they didn't give up and insisted on confirming. That year, Father went out and you disappeared. All these years, grandfather was unwilling to forgive father. Originally, grandfather was prepared to hand over the position of family head to father 20 years ago. Because of this, grandfather has been the family head all these years. Not only that, in fact, father would be scolded by grandfather every time he came back. Speaking of this, Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but laugh. In the past, because they were worried about Beichen's safety, they weren't in the mood to joke. However, now that he knew that Beichen was doing well, he was completely relieved. At this moment, when he recalled the way his father had been scolded all these years, he really felt that it was very funny. One must know that in the eyes of outsiders, Di Yujue was an awe-inspiring figure. But in the family, he was actually in such a situation. If word got out, perhaps no one would be willing to believe it. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun also smiled. From Di Xiaofeng's description, they could already imagine what kind of personality his grandfather had. With Di Yujue's status, perhaps only the old man of the Di family dared to scold him like this. Just a few days ago, grandfather passed the position of patriarch to father. Because grandfather felt that this matter was all his fault, grandfather had been in seclusion for this period of time. I think he took all the responsibility on himself. Di Xiaofeng slowly told Di Beichun about Di Kaiyuan. After listening to all of this, Di Beichun's expression changed slightly. If it was said that he was very unfamiliar with the Di family before and didn't feel anything, but now after hearing all of this, he had an indescribable sense of belonging to the Di family. Bailey Hongzhuang also didn't expect that the Di family would have such a misunderstanding. In the end, this matter couldn't be blamed on the old man of the Di family. It was just that Di Kaiyuan had gone into a dead end and taken a wrong path. Fortunately, Beichen is fine. I believe that after Beichen goes back, everyone will be able to untie the knot in their hearts. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Chapter 4568. Now all of this would disappear with Di Beichen's return. Thinking of this, she felt very happy. Right now, I can't wait to return to the family and tell them this good news. Di Xiaofeng's smile was extremely bright. I really want to see their happy faces when the time comes. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were happy here, when Xiren and the others were not used to being with the head elder. However, the head elder clearly didn't want to talk to them. He kept silent the whole way, so they just closed their eyes and cultivated. In fact, the head elder's mood was very complicated. He originally wanted everyone to take the same flying car, but the young master insisted on taking the same car with them. Although he didn't want to, he couldn't dissuade the young master and could only agree. He always felt that Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng were hiding something. Plus, the young master was ambushed before, so he couldn't help but worry. Fortunately, according to his judgment, the two weren't as strong as the young master. Otherwise, no matter what, he wouldn't let the young master do this. It would take a few days to fly from here to the Di family. He was really worried that something would happen midway. While thinking, the head elder's gaze couldn't help but sweep over Xiren and the others. With these hostages in his hands, he believed that there wouldn't be any problems. Xiren and the others didn't know that the head elder had so many thoughts flashing through his mind. They also didn't know that they were hostages in the head elder's eyes. They only thought that the head elder didn't have any interest in them. Di Beichen, I can guarantee that as long as the news of your return spreads out, grandfather and grandmother will quickly rush over. Di Xiaofeng seemed to have suddenly thought of this, and a trace of a smile appeared on his face. Grandfather and grandmother? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. He had only heard of the Di family, but didn't know much about grandfather and grandmother. Mother is from the Lin family. Our grandfather is the head of the Lin family. The Lin family is also a cultivation family. Back then, father and mother's union was a strong union. Back then, her mother was the apple of her grandfather's eye. At that time, when her father became his son-in-law, her grandfather was very picky. It was only after he accepted her that things became better. Because my mother was the only daughter of my maternal grandfather, when my mother was pregnant, she asked her first son to inherit the Lin family. which was me. As for you, you're the true successor of the Supreme D clan. When you were born, it was the happiest time for the whole family. Mother gave birth to 2 boys, and it just so happened that both of them had heirs. Not only that, you were found to have the cursed body. Actually, the cursed body has always been passed down in our D family. Once the cursed physique transforms into the heavenly mandate physique, your cultivation speed will increase greatly, and you will become a true genius. From then on, you will be the successor of the D clan. I just didn't expect something like that to happen. Di Xiaofeng looked helpless. If that hadn't happened, everything would have been great. After hearing all of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with shock. She didn't expect there to be such a story. No wonder Di Xiaofeng didn't mind Di Beichen's appearance at all. It turned out that he was already set as the successor of the Lin family. Chapter 45-69. Actually, Father is quite pitiful. Ever since he went missing, not only did Grandfather scold Father badly, Grandfather also scolded Father no less than Grandfather. Because of this, Grandfather wasn't willing to contact the D family these years. It's just that Mother and I would often go to the Lin family. Di Xiaofeng sighed faintly. The 2 old men of the 2 families had bad tempers. Di Beichen was the apple of everyone's eye. With such a precious apple gone, one could imagine the situation. It seems like I can already imagine the scene when Master returns to the D family. Xiao Bai, who was sitting on Di Beichen's shoulder, couldn't help but sigh. So, my master is the big apple of the 2 families, ah. Hearing Xiao Bai's words, Di Beichen's expression was a bit unnatural. It wasn't appropriate for a grown man like him to be called an apple, right? That's going to be lively. When we go back, we'll be able to meet everyone very quickly. Xiaohei suddenly raised her eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang playfully. Master, it's time for the ugly daughter-in-law to meet her parents-in-law. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly, and her eyes were filled with threat. Ugly daughter-in-law. No, no, no. Xiaohei hurriedly waved her hands. Beautiful daughter-in-law, beautiful daughter-in-law. Looking at the mischievous Xiaohei and Xiao Bai, Di Xiaofeng chuckled. The family already knows about sister-in-law's matter. When Father went to the lower realm, he went to the Tiangang sect. He learned a lot about your marriage and your experience together. Sister-in-law, we are very grateful for your family's care for Beichen all these years. Di Xiaofeng's expression was serious. He heard that Bailey Hongzhuang's family was very outstanding in the lower realm. Beichen was adopted by Bailey Hongzhuang's grandfather since he was young and later married his granddaughter to him. They would remember this kindness in their hearts. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang instantly understood. Originally, she was still worried about the situation at the D clan. After all, she was just a cultivator from the lower realm, and no one could be sure that she wouldn't be biased by her family background. Of course, she also believed in Di Beichen's feelings for her. After several days of traveling, the flying car finally came to a stop on a flat piece of land. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got off the flying car, the Great Elder, Wen Ziren, and the others quickly walked over. The first elder was originally worried about Di Xiaofeng's safety, but when he saw Di Beichen, he couldn't help but be stunned. His face was filled with astonishment. Isn't this the second young master? As the Great Elder of the D clan, he had seen Di Beichen's portrait before. This young man in front of him clearly looked exactly the same as the second young master. Ziren and the others also noticed that Di Beichen and Di Beichen had revealed their true faces. In their hearts, they already knew that Di Beichen had revealed everything. Di Xiaofeng looked at the Great Elder's incredulous expression and couldn't help but chuckle. That's right, he is Beichen. What? The Great Elder raised his voice. He was also someone who had experienced great storms. But wasn't this news too shocking? Didn't they go to pick up the great young master's friend? Why did they pick up the second young master? Although all of this made him feel incredulous, there was a feeling of extreme joy in his heart. The second young master really didn't die. Chapter 4570. Your second young master? The first elder stood in front of Di Beichun, his face filled with unconcealable joy and excitement. Second young master, you're still alive. Di Beichun noticed the first elder's excited look and understood that the first elder was also one of his close relatives. A smile appeared on his face. Yes, I'm back. That's great. The first elder excitedly wiped the corners of his eyes. All these years, we've all been waiting for you to come back. Now that you're finally back, that's great. Now everyone can finally be at ease. That's great. The first elder said, that's great 3 times in a row to express his joy. Let's go back quickly. I'm sure everyone will be very happy to see second young master. The first elder's face was full of smiles. At this moment, he had completely forgotten that he had doubted Di Beichun and felt that they were a threat to first young master. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest behind saw this scene, and their smiles gradually widened. Even if they weren't Di Beichun, they could feel Di Beichun's happiness at this moment. How far are we from the Di family residence? Shang Guanying looked at the large grassland and mountain peaks in front of her. She was puzzled. They weren't there yet. Why did they stop? This is it. Di Xiaofeng smiled and said. Shang Guanying couldn't help but be stunned. This is it. That's right. Di Xiaofeng nodded. He casually took out a few formation flags and threw them forward. As his hand moved, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest found that the scene in front of them suddenly changed. The grassland and mountain peaks had disappeared and were replaced by a flight of stairs that reached into the clouds. This white jade flight of stairs had more than 1,000 steps, and they couldn't see the end at a glance. Surrounding them were mountains that reached into the clouds and surrounded the white jade flight of stairs. It was like a fairyland. An indescribable feeling of vastness and magnificence lingered in everyone's hearts. As everyone walked into this area, they felt the dense primordial qi in the air. This density of primordial qi was not comparable to ordinary places. Feeling this, everyone's eyes couldn't help but be filled with deep amazement. So, this was the foundation of the great aristocratic families. With such dense yuan qi, the cultivation speed here is incomparable to the outside world. When Xiren couldn't help but sigh. This level of elemental energy, they had also experienced it back in the demonic training tower. However, one had to pay an exorbitant price to enter the magic training tower, and the effect was far inferior to the D families. In an instant, everyone understood. It was no wonder that cultivators from the aristocratic families were incomparable to ordinary cultivators. Cultivating in such a place with such dense yuan qi, one's cultivation speed was naturally incomparable to that of an ordinary person. Even if they were to cultivate here, the speed of their breakthroughs would be much faster than outside. Wow, today is really an eye-opener. Shangguan Yingying stared with her big round eyes, her pretty face full of curiosity. Even though they had already guessed that the aristocratic families of the upper realm were definitely extraordinary, the shock in their hearts could no longer be described with words after seeing it with their own eyes. Actually, they understood that what they saw now was only the tip of the iceberg, and this tip was already very shocking. Chapter 4571. There should be a huge spirit gathering array here. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. Although she didn't know much about arrays, only the area around the D family had such dense energy. It was obvious that the entire D family was surrounded by the spirit gathering array. Not only that, there should be a spirit vein buried underground. Spirit vein was a spirit stone mine. Bailey Hongzhuang was sure that there was a spirit vein buried under the D family. Otherwise, even if they built a huge spirit gathering array, they wouldn't be able to create such dense energy. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of Xiren and the others changed slightly. They had only come into contact with spirit stones when they were on Penglai Island. Normally, it was already very difficult for them to earn enough spirit stones for cultivation. However, the entire D family was actually located on top of a spirit vein. In addition to this spirit gathering array, it provided an extremely good cultivation environment for all the cultivators of the D family. This was a well-deserved extravagance. I didn't expect sister-in-law to know about this. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with surprise. Usually, cultivators from the lower realm wouldn't come into contact with such things. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I only learned about it from books. There are indeed spirit veins buried under our D family, and there's more than one. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with pride. In fact, all the big families are built on top of spirit veins. The spirit gathering array set up like this has the best effect. Everyone nodded in agreement. They had already sensed the effects of the pills as soon as they arrived. Let's go in. If everyone knows that you're back, they'll be very happy, Di Xiaofeng said with a smile. Then, everyone didn't delay. Di Xiaofeng and the Great Elder led everyone up the white jade stairs. Walking on the white jade stairs, everyone realized that the higher they went, the denser the energy they felt. Thinking about it, the place with the densest energy must be at the top. When they got closer, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that there were people living at the foot of the mountain. The cultivators who live at the foot of the mountain are basically disciples of the branch family a few generations later. Those who live in the middle are disciples of the branch family within a few generations, while we, the direct descendants, live at the top. Di Xiaofeng saw that everyone seemed to be very curious about this situation and couldn't help but explain. Hearing this, everyone finally understood what was going on. There really is a huge difference between the upper realm and the lower realm. Shanghua and Yingying couldn't help but sigh. When she was in the lower realm, she felt that their sect was also very grand. However, compared to the D clan, there was a huge difference. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have been able to imagine the shock of such a great aristocratic family. The upper realm has a lot more people and cultivation resources than the lower realm, so there will be some differences, Di Xiaofeng said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang fell silent. Based on their current understanding of the situation, the cultivators of the lower realm were undoubtedly the losers of the upper realm. Because they lost their competitiveness in the upper realm, they stayed in the lower realm. If possible, she hoped that her family could also come to the upper realm with her. Chapter 4572. She didn't want such a thing to happen. She didn't even want to accept that it was just a possibility. The reason why the lower realm cultivators could live so well was because the upper realm families all follow the rules. If there was a person who broke the rules one day, then everything would be gone. Di Xiaofeng obviously didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have thought of so many things in such a short time. However, he also welcomed Bailey Hongzhuang's family to the upper realm. The white jade stairs were very long. Even Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had to walk for a long time before they arrived at the residence of the D family's direct descendant. Standing at the top of the white jade stairs and looking down at the blue clouds, everyone couldn't help but feel that the mountains were small. Following behind Di Xiaofeng and the head elder, the D family's cultivators all bowed when they saw the two. Eldest young master, head elder. Di Xiaofeng and the head elder nodded slightly. All the cultivators who passed by all bowed. However, everyone was curiously looking at Di Beichun and the others. It was rare to see the eldest young master bring people back. Moreover, there were so many people in this area. Look, doesn't that white robe man behind the eldest young master look a bit like the eldest young master? Yeah, I've never seen a man as handsome as the eldest young master. I didn't expect this man to not be inferior to the eldest young master at all. The woman beside that man is also a first-class beauty. I've seen many young ladies from other families before, but I've never seen such a beautiful young lady. I wonder which family she's from. Actually, that black robe man is also very handsome. He's just a bit colder. The D family's cultivators couldn't help but whisper. They were all guessing the identity of the person who came. After all, the person who could be brought back by the eldest young master wouldn't be simple. However, at this critical moment, they didn't know what he came here for. When Xiren couldn't help but shake his head and sigh when he heard everyone's discussion. Normally, he was also very handsome. He didn't expect that after coming here, he would be completely ignored. Forget it, who told these guys to be too handsome? Xiron spread out his hands. It wasn't that he wasn't handsome enough, but that the guys beside him were too handsome. I finally understand why Wang Yanhan and the others didn't come. AI. Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but sigh. The difference between people was too unfriendly. Second brother, sister-in-law, come with me. I believe that father and mother will be very happy to see you. The smile on Di Xiaofeng's face never dissipated. He really couldn't wait to bring Di Beichun and Di Beichun to his family. Di Beichun nodded slightly. Good. However, just as they were about to leave, a figure suddenly rushed past them. After noticing the first elder and Di Xiaofeng, he stopped in his tracks. Chapter 4573. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. They already knew that Di Beichun's mother was seriously ill, but they didn't expect her condition to be so serious. Although Dr. Wu said it tactfully, they all understood that since he said it was not good and was so anxious, they were afraid that she couldn't hold on. Dr. Wu, I've already found my brother. I believe that after my mother sees my brother, she will be able to untie the knot in her heart. Di Xiaofeng quickly said. Hearing this, Dr. Wu was slightly stunned. His gaze fell on Di Beichun, and he quickly nodded. I didn't expect second young master to be back. I'm sure Madam will be very happy when she finds out. Then let's go quickly, Di Xiaofeng quickly said. At this moment, he didn't have time to tell the family head. His mother's illness was the most important thing. However, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, Aunt's illness is indeed a heart disease, but it's already very serious. If Beichun suddenly appears, she might be too agitated and, long before this, she had already predicted that such a possibility would occur. Di Beichun was indeed the way to untie the knot in Lin Yunqing's heart, but she was already extremely weak. If she suddenly became too agitated, she might not be able to hold on. Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, Dr. Wu also nodded. That's right. I was too anxious before and neglected this point. Madam's body is now extremely weak. If there's a sudden stimulation, she might not be able to take it. As he said this, Dr. Wu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Miss, you've also studied medicine. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Di Xiaofeng said, Sister-in-law is the godly doctor I mentioned before. Sister-in-law, in your opinion, what should we do now? Don't go over for now. I'll go take a look at the situation first. The most important thing now is to let Madam calm down and have some confidence. Where her condition is slightly better, Beichun will appear again. I believe the effect will be much better. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She only knew a little about Madam's situation from everyone's narration. After all, she hadn't really checked, so she couldn't make a conclusion. Miss, Madam's current situation is actually very bad. Why don't we let second young master take a look? At the side, Dr. Wu couldn't help but remind her. He felt that Madam was already at the end of her rope. It just so happened that second young master had returned. If she didn't go now, she might not even be able to see him for the last time. Hearing this, everyone's heart sank again. They all understood what he meant. Di Beichun's pupil shrank. He didn't expect his mother's illness to be so serious. Wife? Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his deep eyes filled with complex emotions. That was the mother he had never met before. Even though they had not seen each other all these years, she was still the mother he cared about the most. With just one call, Bailey Hongzhuang understood Di Beichun's thoughts. Beichun, don't worry. I will definitely find a way to cure Aunt. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was heavy and serious. Beichun finally came back to reunite with her. She definitely couldn't let anything happen to Aunt. She had studied medicine for so long so that she would not have any regrets. Di Beichun nodded. Listen, my wife. We'll wait outside. Chapter 4574. Di Xiaofeng knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills weren't comparable to ordinary people. Moreover, his mother was also Bailey Hongzhuang's mother. She wouldn't mess around with this kind of thing. Thinking about it, since she did this, she must be confident. Where is Auntie? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Dr. Wu and asked. Seeing that everyone agreed with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Manager Wu sighed and didn't have any objections. Come with me. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Dr. Wu left quickly, Di Beiqian and the others didn't delay and also went to Lin Yunqing's residence. However, they didn't go in and chose to wait outside. Eldest young master, second young master, Madam's condition is so serious. I'd better go inform the patriarch first. Elder said, although he didn't understand why eldest young master and second young master believed in Madam's medical skills so much, he felt that they had their reasons. However, Madam was really too young. Although the age of cultivators couldn't be completely judged from their appearance, he was still certain that Bailey Hongzhuang was only in her 20s. At this age, could she cure the illness that even Dr. Wu couldn't? Di Xiaofeng nodded. Go quickly. Di Beiqian, Xiaofeng, don't worry too much. Hongzhuang's medical skills have always been outstanding. I believe that as long as she makes a move, there won't be a problem. Shangguan Yingying comforted. Di Beiqian nodded slightly, but his dignified face showed that he still didn't feel relieved. It wasn't that he didn't believe in Hongzhuang's medical skills, but he was too worried about Lin Yunqing. The last time I saw Mother, her illness was already quite serious. I didn't expect it to reach this point. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were slightly red. Until now, he still didn't want to believe that his mother's illness was so serious. It will be fine, Di Beiqian said in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Dr. Wu into a courtyard. After entering the house, she found that the decoration here was very elegant, and the house exuded a bit of medicinal smell. Obviously, the people who lived here must have been taking drugs all year round. That was why the whole house was filled with such a smell. In his sight, a woman was lying on a bed. Without a doubt, she was an extremely beautiful woman. Her skin was fair and her features were picturesque. Even though her eyes were tightly shut at this moment, her brows were slightly furrowed. Even though she was unconscious, there was still a kind of sadness that could not be dispelled. Her delicate appearance made one's heart ache for her. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the beautiful woman in front of her and understood why Di Beiqian and Di Xiaofeng were so handsome. They had inherited her excellent genes. Lin Yunqing slowly opened her eyes as if she sensed someone coming. Right now, she was as thin as a match, and her hands were only skin and bones. However, her delicate beauty was emitted to the extreme, making it impossible for people to ignore her. Seeing the young woman before her, Lin Yunqing was astonished. However, she was even more astonished. What a beautiful girl. Her soft voice was like spring water, making people feel relaxed and happy. Greetings, madam. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly bowed. Dr. Wu, this girl is? Without waiting for Dr. Wu to answer, Bailey Hongzhuang answered herself. I'm a friend that young master Xiaofeng brought back. Hearing this, Lin Yunqing's gaze changed a bit. Then, her gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang became even gentler. Chapter 45-75. Seeing the change in Lin Yunqing's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that Lin Yunqing had misunderstood. Madam, I'm actually Beiqian's friend. Hearing the words Beiqian, Lin Yunqing's gaze froze. You're Beiqian's friend? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, a sweet smile on her lips. Madam, I've known Beiqian for many years. I know that you're so weak now because you're worried about Beiqian. If Beiqian knew about this, he wouldn't be willing either. If you're willing to know about Beiqian, I'll slowly tell you after I've treated him. All right? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was unusually gentle. Looking at Lin Yunqing, she felt as if she was looking at her own mother. Mu Lingbing had been extremely worried about her in the past. Although Lin Yunqing and Mu Lingbing weren't the same person, their feelings were the same. You know about Beiqian? Lin Yunqing's dim eyes immediately lit up. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a burning gaze, her eyes full of surprise. I know a lot about him. Let me take your pulse first, then I'll slowly tell you, all right? Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was faint and her voice was gentle, giving off the feeling of a spring breeze. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, Lin Yunqing felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. The corners of her lips curled into a gentle and affectionate smile. All right. After getting Lin Yunqing's consent, Bailey Hongzhuang took Lin Yunqing's thin hand and began to take her pulse. She was so thin that it made one's heart ache. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very gentle, as if she was afraid that she would hurt her if she used too much strength. Lin Yunqing seemed to have noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts, and her gaze became even gentler. After taking her pulse, Bailey Hongzhuang had a better understanding of Lin Yunqing's condition. Sure enough, Dr. Wu's judgment was not wrong. Lin Yunqing's physical condition was really bad. Under such circumstances, even the slightest provocation would be unbearable. This was the first time she had encountered such a mental illness. It was also because this mental illness had existed for far too many years. Is my situation very bad? Lin Yun said with a faint smile when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang frown. Don't worry about it. I know my body's condition very well. Tell me about Bewitching. As his mother, I haven't been able to stay by his side for so many years. I only know a little about him. I'm very happy to be able to see you at a time like this. Hearing more about him is the greatest consolation. Lin Yunqing's expression was calm, while her eyes were clear and flawless. She seemed to have seen through everything since long ago. Madam, you'll be fine. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a resolute light. Although Lin Yunqing's condition was very serious, she would definitely nurse her back to health. You don't have to comfort me. Lin Yunqing waved her hand. Miss, I don't know why, but I like you very much at first sight. Speaking of this, Lin Yunqing's smile became even more brilliant. She had really liked Bailey Hongzhuang from the first time she had laid eyes on her. This was the first time someone among the younger generation had made her feel this way. Tell me about Bewitching. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. All right, but before that, you must take this pill. Hearing this, Lin Yunqing was stunned for a moment before she smiled and agreed. All right, I'll do as you say. Chapter 4576. When Dr. Wu saw that Madame and Bailey Hongzhuang actually got along so well, his heart was filled with astonishment. He had been in charge of Madame's illness for quite some time. Although Madame had a gentle temperament and was easy to get along with, this was the first time such a situation had happened. Originally, he was still thinking about how to introduce Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not expect that before he even said anything, everything had already been resolved. Moreover, from the current situation, the two of them seemed to be chatting happily. He did not need to worry at all. Not only that, Madame's current state was much better than usual. For a moment, Dr. Wu only felt that this might really be fate. After Lin Yunqing took the pill, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly relieved. This pill was refined by her previously. After knowing that Lin Yunqing's condition was not very good, she began to refine a few pills in case of an emergency. Now it just so happened that she needed to use it. The most important thing for her now was to stabilize Lin Yunqing's condition. Later, she would go back and concoct some medicine. Although she did not have many medicinal herbs on her, she believed that with the D family's foundation, they should have all these medicinal herbs. However, this heart disease had existed for too long. If she wanted to cure it, it would also be a gradual process. Following that, Bailey Hongzhuang began to talk about Bewitching's past. Lin Yunqing listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's narration. Her expression was gentle and faintly revealed a bit of joy. So he has always been so outstanding. After knowing that Bewitching had always been an outstanding existence in the lower realm, Lin Yunqing's eyes reddened. However, her heart was even more gratified. However, as she spoke, the corners of Lin Yunqing's eyes became wet. Sometimes I regret it. If we had known that he was living well in the lower realm, should we not have looked for him? If he had not come to the upper realm, then at least he could still live well. But now it's all because of us. Madam, don't think like that. He is your son. Moreover, all of this was not within your expectations. Think about it from Bewitching's perspective. If he knew that his family had always been so concerned about him, he would definitely be very happy. Of course, he hopes that you can live on. Lin Yunqing shook her head slightly. Her eyes were wet with tears, and her voice was choked with sobs. My son is very lonely underground. I want to accompany him. All these years, as his mother, I didn't take good care of him. It's just that I'm most worried that he won't be able to recognize me once I'm underground. As she spoke, Lin Yinqing couldn't help but cry. She already knew Beichen's appearance from the portrait, but Beichen had never seen her all these years, so how could he recognize her? Hearing Lin Yunqing's words, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but tear up. A mother's love was so great. At this moment, this was what Lin Yunqing was most worried about. Madam, actually, Beichen might not be dead. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said. She had to give Lin Yunqing a glimmer of hope and let her have the desire to live. Otherwise, if he continued to maintain this attitude, even if she tried her best to treat him, she would not be able to achieve good results. Lin Yunqing was slightly stunned. What do you mean? Up until now, no one has found Beichen's body. Since they haven't found him, he might not be dead. How can you determine the result just by listening to one person's words? Chapter 4577. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black phoenix eyes flickered with a bright light, and her pretty face was surrounded by convincing luster. Lin Yunqing was also shocked, and for a moment, she did not know what to say. Indeed, she did not see Beichen's corpse. She had only heard Di Kaiyuan's words and had already determined the result. In fact, how could anyone not believe what Di Kaiyuan said before he died? Didn't everyone think that Beichen had already fallen? But he was still alive and well. Maybe it's the same now. There will be miracles in this world. Maybe Di Kaiyuan himself has not figured out the situation. If you give up now, what if Beichen comes back? How regretful would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang held Lin Yunqing's hand. So, you must persevere. You must nurse your body back to health and look forward to that day. Lin Yunqing stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. She had already given up all hope, but after hearing all this, she suddenly had a trace of hope. Maybe a miracle would really happen. You are very tired now. Why don't you rest first? I will tell you about Beichen in detail later, okay? Lin Yunqing nodded slightly. In fact, she also felt very tired. She just wanted to hear more about Beichen, so she had been holding on. After coaxing Lin Yunqing to sleep, Bailey Hongzhuang retreated. She took out a pen and paper and wrote down the medicinal herbs she needed and handed them to Dr. Wu. Dr. Wu, you should be able to find these medicinal herbs, right? Dr. Wu took a look. Although these medicinal herbs were expensive, there was no problem with the D family. Don't worry, I will find them soon. But can they cure Madam? Dr. Wu could see that these medicinal herbs were all beneficial to the body, but he had used many of them before, but they had no effect. It will be cured, Bailey Hongzhuang said with certainty. Okay, I will go prepare now. After the great elder informed Di Yujue of Lin Yunqing's situation, he rushed over as soon as possible. Is Yunqing's current situation very bad? Di Yujue's face was filled with anxiety. Recently, he also knew that Yunqing's situation was very bad, so other than dealing with the family matters, he spent all his time with her. However, seeing her condition getting worse and worse every day, his heart ached, but he could do nothing about it. Second young madam is back. Perhaps things will take a turn for the better, First elder said uncertainly. He did not know much about the second madam's medical skills, but according to the eldest young master, the second madam was a miracle doctor. Perhaps things would turn for the better. Second madam? Di Yujue couldn't help but frown when he heard this. What's second madam? Patriarch, second young master, and second young madam have returned. First elder hurriedly explained. We were preoccupied with madam's condition and forgot to inform you. Second young master? Di Yujue was stunned, and then a look of disbelief appeared on his face. You're saying that Beichun is back? Yes, second young master is still alive. First elder nodded. It turns out that eldest young master and second young master had become friends before, but they didn't know each other's identity at that time. This time, eldest young master went to Rome and city and just happened to meet each other. It turns out that the miracle doctor that eldest young master mentioned before is his second madam. What a coincidence. I think it's fate. Chapter 4578. Even though the great elder had spoken on his own, Diujue only heard one sentence in his mind. Beichun was still alive. This news was like a bolt of lightning, causing him to freeze on the spot. His hands trembled slightly, and his handsome and dignified face was filled with unconcealable joy and excitement. He's still alive? He's really still alive? Diujue mumbled to himself as an indescribable joy blossomed in his heart. At that moment, he felt as if the sky was exceptionally clear today, and he felt as if he was stepping on clouds. That's right, the second young master is still alive. I told you that the second young master will be blessed by the heavens. The great elder's face was full of smiles as well. After worrying and searching for so many years, the second young master has finally returned. Their hearts, which had been hanging in suspense, could finally be put down. Even though someone had been trying to obstruct them from behind the scenes, it was a good thing that the other party's plot had not succeeded. Where is Beichun now? Diujue no longer cared about anything else. He only wanted to see Beichun standing in front of him, safe and sound. The second young master is now in the madam's courtyard. The great elder understood Diujue's anxious feelings and immediately replied. The eldest young master and the second young master had planned to meet with the master first. However, they happened to run into Dr. Wu on the way and found out that the madam's condition was not very good, so they went to the madam's residence first. I've come to inform you. Diujue nodded gently. His feelings were very complicated. Initially, he was very happy to know that Beichun had returned safely. However, when he thought of Lin Yunqing's current condition, he could not help but worry. Let's go to the madam's courtyard and have a look. In the next moment, Diujue's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. Diujue only slowed down when they were outside Lin Yunqing's courtyard. As he stared at the courtyard not too far away, he suddenly felt uneasy. There was a kind of feeling called homesickness. Although his current situation did not fit this description, there was a similar feeling. All along, he had been hoping to see Beichun. However, now that Beichun was not too far away, he did not dare to go over. If others knew about this, they would definitely find it unbelievable that he, the master of the D family, would have such feelings. However, it was all true. In fact, he was the one who felt the deepest guilt towards Beichun. If he had not fallen into the trap back then, of course, Beichun would not have been stranded in the outside world all these years. Although he knew that Situ Yin had never mistreated Beichun, it was still different for him to not grow up in the family. Moreover, he had learned from Situ Yin that Beichun had always been concerned about his background. He did not know how to face Beichun at this moment. Similarly, he did not know if Beichun would forgive him. Now, he missed the time when he was on Ponlai Island. He and Beichun had a pleasant conversation, and the two of them felt like old friends at first sight. From then on, he knew that Beichun was a calm and magnanimous person. However, now that his identity had changed, everything was different. When the great elder saw Diujue standing outside and suddenly stopped, he was confused for a short moment before he understood. Just like how the old master went into seclusion after knowing that everything was related to him. Thinking about it, the person they could not forgive the most was him. Master, second young master, is very reasonable. He will understand. The great elder's voice was low as he spoke slowly. Chapter 4579. He had already thought it through. No matter if Beichun blamed him, resented him, or hated him, he would accept it, because it was his fault all these years. To him, as long as Beichun was still alive, that was already his greatest comfort. As for anything else, he wouldn't ask for anything else. The first elder looked at the silent Diujue and didn't say anything else. He understood that this kind of thing wasn't something that could be comforted by others. He only hoped that the second young master could understand the patriarch. In fact, The patriarch had punished him enough over the years. Di Beichen and Di Xiaofeng stood outside the courtyard. Both of them were silent and kept looking inside, hoping to know the result as soon as possible. Just as Di Beichen was waiting, Di Xiaofeng suddenly turned around and said to the figure outside the courtyard, "Father." Seeing Di Yujue's arrival, a happy smile appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face. "I brought Beichen back." As soon as he stepped into the courtyard, Di Yujue's gaze was fixed on Di Beichen. His son was even more handsome than in the portrait. He stood out from the crowd, and he was elegant and charming. At the same time, Di Beichen also looked at Di Yujue. Although he had already seen him before, seeing him now was a completely different feeling. His father. For so many years, he would sometimes think about what his father would look like. Now, his father was standing in front of him. Di Yujue and Di Beichen stood there, looking at each other with complicated and deep gazes. Di Yujue's hands behind his back trembled slightly. His lips opened and closed, and his eyes flickered. He seemed to be hesitating, but also seemed to be thinking about how to phrase his words. After a while, he called out, "Beichen." He had never felt that speaking was such a difficult thing, and his heart was even more uneasy. Looking at the handsome man who was like the sun, his heart was boiling and his palms were sweating. Di Beichen also stared at Di Yujue. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. "Father." After calling him father, Di Beichen felt his whole body relax. In the past, he had been resentful towards his family for abandoning him, but now that he understood everything, his resentment had long disappeared. When Di Yujue heard Di Beichen call him father, he was completely stunned. His deep and spirited eyes suddenly widened, revealing disbelief and uncontrollable ecstasy. That kind of surprise simply could not be expressed with words. He had thought of many scenarios where Beichen would not forgive him, but he had never thought that Beichen would directly call him father. The word father had reached the bottom of his heart. His heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly smashed by someone. A feeling of warm tears spread in his heart, and the corners of his eyes could not help but moisten. However, all the previous nervousness and apprehension turned into joy in an instant. A joyful smile from the bottom of his heart bloomed on Di Yujue's lips. You call me father?" Di Beichen smiled. "You are my father." Hearing this, Di Yujue hurriedly took a few steps forward. His chest kept rising and falling, as if he did not know how to suppress his excitement and ecstasy. "Thank you for coming back, and thank you for being willing to acknowledge me as your father." Di Yujue's voice was low, suppressing some kind of enthusiasm, but everyone present understood that he was excited and complicated. Chapter 4580. In the next moment, Di Yujue suddenly opened his arms. Di Beichen stepped forward with a smile, and the father and son hugged each other. The golden sunlight shone on the father and son hugging each other. It was bright and gorgeous, revealing a kind of warmth that penetrated one's heart. Di Yujue patted Di Beichen's back and said in a calm and powerful voice, "Good son, my good son." Di Beichen just slowly said, "Father, I'm back." His expression was very calm, and from his trembling voice, everyone knew that he was also controlling his emotions. Di Xiaofeng and the others on the side watched the scene of the father and son reuniting, and the corners of their eyes became slightly moist. Although men weren't good at expressing their feelings, they all understood. After Di Yujue let go of Di Beichen, the smile on his face became extremely bright. He quickly said to the head elder, "Head elder, go and inform the old man and old madam that Beichen is back." The head elder quickly nodded. "I'll go now." After the head elder left, Di Yujue's mood also calmed down. When he looked at Lin Yunqing's room, there was a trace of worry between his brows. "Xiaofeng, how is your mother now?" Di Xiaofeng's brows were tightly knit as worry appeared on his face. Dr. Wu said that mother's situation is very bad. Sister-in-law has already gone in to see her, but she hasn't come out yet. We don't know the situation yet. Hearing this, Di Yujue couldn't help but worry. He looked at Di Beichen and said, If your mother knows that you're back, she will definitely be very happy. He knew too, well, how much Lin Yunqing missed her son all these years. If she knew, how happy would she be? Hong Zhuang's medical skills are very outstanding. She will definitely cure mother. Di Beichen's voice was firm and firm. He believed in Hong Zhuang's ability, and at the same time, he fervently hoped that his mother would be fine. Di Yujue nodded. He also believed in this, because just from the fact that Bailey Hong Zhuang cured Di Beichen's cursed body, one could see how outstanding her medical skills were. One had to know that if it wasn't for the Di family's previous method of curing the cursed body, other doctors wouldn't be able to solve this problem at all. Bailey Hong Zhuang came from the lower realm, but was able to understand this. This in itself was very shocking. Just as they were discussing, Dr. Wu came out of the room. Almost immediately, Di and hurriedly went up to greet him. Dr. Wu, how is the situation? Madams, as she seemed to likes. She liked madam at first sight. As he spoke, Dr. Wu handed a piece of paper in his hand to Di Yujue. These are the medicinal herbs that the second madam had asked me to retrieve. Just now, the second madam had fed madam a pill, and madam is now resting. However, the second madam is using silver needles to treat madam. According to the second madam, she will be able to cure madam. However, madam has been too weak these past few years and will need some time to recover. She said that it can't be rushed. Di Yujue glanced at the medicinal herbs on the piece of paper and waved his hand to summon a servant. Go to the medicinal herb storehouse and retrieve these medicinal herbs. Yes. Chapter 4581. Di Xiaofeng noticed Di Beichen's expression and his eyes lit up. Second brother, can sister-in-law really be cured? Di Beichen nodded slightly. Since Hong Zhuang said it can be cured, then it can be cured. As soon as this was said, Di Yujue and Di Xiaofeng both breathed a sigh of relief. They believed that since Di Beichen said so, then there really wasn't a problem. I didn't expect sister-in-law's medical skills to be so outstanding. Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. When he knew that the group of doctors were helpless, he immediately thought of Bailey Hongzhuang. But now that he heard this definite answer, he couldn't help but be amazed. Dr. Wu on the side couldn't help but say, I don't know who second madam's medical skills are from. Although I don't know how second madam plans to treat it, I don't know why second madam always gives people a kind of convincing power. Madam's mood has not been very good during this period of time, but since second madam appeared, madam has been very calm. When Di Xiaofeng said that he wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to treat madam, he was actually full of doubts in his heart. But when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang talking with madam, he began to change his attitude. Regardless of whether Bailey Hongzhuang could really cure madam, at least with her consolation, madam's state was far from normal. If there was someone like second madam to console madam before, then madam's condition wouldn't be so serious. After Di Yujue heard Dr. Wu's opinion of Bailey Hongzhuang, a bright light flashed in his eyes. Dr. Wu's reputation was very resounding, and there weren't many people who could be chosen by him. He didn't expect his daughter-in-law to be able to get such a high evaluation from Dr. Wu. When he was in the lower realm, although he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang, he didn't know much about her. Now that he knew about Bailey Hongzhuang, he was more and more satisfied with his daughter-in-law. His son and himself both had good taste. Di Xiaofeng also breathed a sigh of relief. This is all thanks to second brother marrying a good sister-in-law. Mother still doesn't know that sister-in-law is her daughter-in-law. If she knew, she would be even happier. Ever since the incident with Di Kaiyuan, Di Lin Xian handed over the position of patriarch to Di Yujue and began a long period of seclusion. Xiao Wanrong knew that Di Lin Xian was unwilling to forgive her. Even if she tried to persuade the old man, it was useless. She knew that the old man had always been stubborn. He had been unwilling to forgive Di Yujue for so many years, but he had never thought that the root cause was actually her. One could imagine how painful it was. Now, she could only sigh. She didn't know when this old man would be able to get over it. If he didn't let her go, it would only make her feel worse. Right at this time, someone suddenly reported that head elder had arrived. Hearing this news, Xiao Wanrong was also somewhat puzzled. Could it be that something happened in the family? Go and invite the great elder here. Soon, Xiao Wanrong saw the great elder walking over with a joyful expression. Xiao Wanrong originally had a worried look on her face. When she saw the great elder's joyful look, she couldn't help but feel even more puzzled. Great elder, did something good happen? Why are you so happy? Old madam, let me tell you a piece of good news. Second young master has returned. Chapter 4582. First elder nodded repeatedly. He was already used to everyone's expressions. At this moment, when he saw old madam's expression, it was as if he had seen himself in the past. Everyone was pleasantly surprised that second young master could return. Yes, second young master has just returned. Patriarch asked me to inform you, and old master. Is what you said true? Xiao Wanrong stepped forward and stared at first elder with a burning gaze. You can't lie about this kind of thing. Old madam, even if I ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, I wouldn't dare to lie to you. First elder hurriedly said, a few days ago, first young master and I went to Rome and city to find a miracle doctor to treat madam. We didn't expect this miracle doctor to be second young madam. When we returned, second young master revealed his identity. All of this is fate. Seeing first elder's solemn vow, Xiao Wanrong understood that all of this was true. She was ecstatic. This surprise came too suddenly, so much so that she couldn't believe it. That's great. Xiao Wanrong clapped her hands excitedly and couldn't help but pace back and forth. Her face was full of excitement and agitation. I knew it. Our Beichin is blessed and will be fine. I have to quickly inform the old man to go see our precious grandson together. Xiao Wanrong clapped her hands repeatedly, so that the old man won't be competing with himself. Where is Beichin now? Second young master is now in madam's courtyard. I got it. I'll go right away. Without waiting for first elder to finish speaking, Xiao Wanrong's figure had already disappeared from sight. Seeing this, first elder sighed and shook his head. He didn't expect old madam to be so agile. However, the smile on his face couldn't help but widen. Such great news. I have to inform the other elders too. Ha! Thinking of this, first elder's figure also quickly disappeared. Di Linxian had been in seclusion in the secret chamber. When he suddenly saw the door of the secret chamber open, he couldn't help but frown. Seeing that familiar figure, Di Linxian opened his mouth without thinking. Old madam, you don't have to say anything. I won't go out. He couldn't face all of this and couldn't forgive himself. When he thought of his poor grandson, he really wished he could go to hell to accompany him. Normally, Xiao Wanrong would feel very uncomfortable when she heard Di Linxuan's words. But now, the smile on her face was still as bright as ever. In fact, ever since she found out that her precious grandson was not dead and had even returned, she could not control the smile on her face. She wanted to control it, but she couldn't. This was the best day he had ever been in over 20 years. Hee, old man, are you really not going out today? Looking at Xiao Wanrong's smiling face, Di Linxuan's brows furrowed even tighter. Old woman, what's wrong with you today? You're laughing like you're having a seizure. The moment these words came out, Xiao Wanrong's expression instantly changed, and she glared. You're the one who's laughing like you're having a stroke. Whether you smile or not, you look like you're having a stroke. However, after saying this, Xiao Wanrong's smile appeared again. The corners of her mouth were raised so high that they almost reached the back of her ears. Di Linxian couldn't be bothered to bicker with him. What did you come here to say? If there's nothing else, then go out. I'm going into seclusion. Chapter 4583. However, Di Linxian waved his hand. Unless Beichin isn't dead, I won't forgive myself. That's right, Beichin isn't dead. Xiao Wanrong nodded. It's useless no matter what you say. Di Linxian sighed. In the next second, he suddenly went into shock and stared at Xiao Wanrong in astonishment. "What did you just say?" "I said that Beichun isn't dead," Xiao Wanrong repeated herself. Di Lin Xin quickly walked in front of Xiao Wanrong and stared blankly at her. "You, say that again?" "Beichun isn't dead." Xiao Wanrong raised her voice. "Not only is he not dead, he's even back. Are you going out today or not? If you're not going out, then stay here. I'm rushing to see my precious grandson." Xiao Wanrong glanced at Di Lin Xian and pretended to walk out. Seeing this, Di Lin Xian quickly chased after her. "Is what you said true? Our precious grandson is really back? How did he come back? When did he come back? Where is he now?" Di Lin Xian had a stomach full of questions. His originally listless face was now brimming with energy, and he looked as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He was so excited that he could not control himself. Xiao Wanrong was speechless when she heard Di Lin Xian's question after question. "I came to tell you as soon as I heard the news. If an old man like you hadn't insisted on going into closed-door cultivation here, I would have seen my precious grandson by now." Xiao Wanrong scoffed coldly in dissatisfaction. However, it was useless to pretend at this moment because the smile on her lips could not be suppressed at all. Even though Di Lin Xian had not seen Di Beichun with his own eyes, he knew that everything was true. The smile on his face was not the same as Xiao Wanrong's smile. On the contrary, it was even more exaggerated and his eyes had narrowed into slits. Then where are they now? In Yunqing's courtyard. Hearing this, Di Lin Xian immediately ran forward. His speed did not seem like that of an old man. Old man, wait for me." Seeing that Di Lin Xian was about to run away, Xiao Wanrong was anxious and accidentally fell. Di Lin Xian finally stopped when he heard Xiao Wanrong's voice. Looking at Xiao Wanrong's appearance, Di Lin Xian ran back helplessly. "Old woman, you're already so old. Why don't you take it easy on the road?" After Di Lin Xian helped her up, Xiao Wanrong blushed a little. That's because I was in a hurry to see my grandson. We haven't seen each other for so many years. How can we not be anxious? It's good that you're in such a hurry. You're already so old, yet you're still so impatient. If this gets out, you'll become a laughing stock." Di Lin Xian turned around and left as he spoke. Boom! A muffled sound was heard. Di Lin Xian accidentally bumped into the door. Seeing this, Xiao Wanrong could not help but chuckle. "You only know how to talk about me. Look at yourself. You're still the same." Di Lin Xian was at a loss for words. I'm just anxious to see my grandson. If I didn't come back to help you, would I have hit the door? Don't be stubborn and deny it. Do you think I don't know your character?" Xiao Wanrong looked as if she had seen through him. Di Lin Xian was also embarrassed. "It's enough that we know about this. Don't tell anyone about it later," Di Lin Xian said domineeringly. However, there was a hint of guilt in his voice. I know. Xiao Wanrong waved her hand. "You want to keep up appearances to avoid suffering." Chapter 4584. After seeing Di Beichun and his father reunite, Di Xiaofeng's smile became even brighter. Now, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Fortunately, his younger brother was reasonable and did not have any dissatisfaction after knowing the whole process. Otherwise, the situation would be a little complicated. After Di Yujua knew that there was a way to treat Lin Yunqing's illness, he only felt that the stone in his heart was completely put down. His whole person seemed to be a lot more relaxed. All the things that he was worried about were solved today, leaving only a pleasant surprise. Beichun, I can guarantee that grandfather and grandmother will rush over soon. A playful smile appeared on Di Xiaofeng's face. He raised his eyebrows and grinned, revealing his white and neat teeth. He knew his grandparents too well. Just by thinking about how they scolded his father every day, he knew how much they were looking forward to Beichun's return. They must have rushed over as soon as they heard the news of Beichun's return. Although there was some distance from here, it should only take a moment. Hearing Di Xiaofeng's words, Di Yujue shook his head helplessly, but there was still a smile in his eyes. Not long after he said this, two figures appeared outside the courtyard. They did not see the person, but they heard the voice first. Where's my precious grandson? Xiao Wanrong and Di Linxian hurried to the courtyard and saw Di Beichen standing next to Di Yujue at a glance. Suddenly, their eyes lit up. Although this was the first time they had seen Di Beichen, they had looked at the portrait left and right. They didn't know how many times they had seen it. Now that they saw the real person, they were very excited. "Oh, my good grandson!" Xiao Wanrong stepped forward and held Di Beichen's hand. Her kind and gentle face was filled with a kind and amiable smile. "You're finally back. Let grandmother take a look." It was Di Beichen's first time seeing such a kind and amiable old lady. He passively turned around on the spot and let Xiao Wanrong carefully look at him. Only then did Xiao Wanrong reveal a comfortable smile. "Good, very good." Di Linxian looked at Xiao Wanrong's anxious appearance and couldn't help but frown. "Don't scare my precious grandson." As he spoke, Di Linxian looked at Di Beichen and smiled warmly. "My good grandson, don't be scared by your grandmother. She's always been impatient." Di Beichen had a sunny smile on his face. Even if it was the first time he saw the two elders, he liked them from the bottom of his heart. He could see the fondness the two elders had for him in their eyes. That fondness was so dense that it could not be dissolved. It emanated from their bones, making it irresistible. "Grandfather, grandmother." Di Beichen greeted them with a smile. "Sai." Di Linxian and Xiao Wanrong answered happily. Their loud voices were filled with joy. It was as if they couldn't wait for the whole world to know that their precious grandson had returned. The two elders, who were usually strict and serious, were as happy as children at this moment, completely disregarding their previous image. "My precious grandson is so handsome." Xiao Wanrong stroked Di Beichen's arm happily. Her eyes were curved into crescents because of her smile. "You're even more handsome than your father. How many young girls have been charmed by you?" You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.